Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here for our second conversation circle for the Youth Human Rights Declaration. So my name is Ray. I oversee youth engagement at UNA USA. And today we're joined by a really great special guest and some special guest speakers. So before we get into today's discussion, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the Youth Declaration Project, what we've been working on this past year or so, and then I'll hand it off to our fantastic moderator. So today's discussion is all about health, climate, housing, and migration. And I know those are a lot of different topics, but as you can imagine, human rights covers a wide breadth of issues. And so we wanted to make sure that through each of these different conversation circles, we're covering as many topics as possible. And of course, thank you to the UNA USA Youth Affinity Group co-chairs for supporting today's event. So if you haven't already heard, the Youth Declaration is a project that we've been working on for the past, I think, year and a half now at this point. And it's been really exciting. But if you're not already familiar with UNA USA, we're considered one of the largest grassroots movements of Americans in support of the UN. So we have about 20,000 members. And what's really exciting is that about 70% of our membership is actually under the age of 26. So we're really excited to always engage youth advocates and make sure that they have a space in the work at the UN that we're supporting, but also just in global advocacy at large. So this youth declaration that I'm sure you all been hearing about within the past couple of months, we launched this in December 2023 as the UN was celebrating 75 years since the origins of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so as you can imagine, at that time, young people weren't really included in the drafting of that declaration, and the world has changed quite a bit as you can, probably tell since, the early 20th century when this was being drafted. And so we decided to launch our own version, the Youth Human Rights Declaration. And so, we had development sessions. We heard from hundreds of American youth about the different ways that they wanted to change and update and modernize the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so that led to the creation of this declaration that we have here. And of course, we had a wonderful drafting committee made up of American youth leaders who oversaw this process along with our previous youth observers. So you're probably all wondering, what happens next? How is this project going to materialize and come to an end? So we are all leading and thinking about the lead up to Summit of the Future, which is happening next month at the UN. So our goal for this project was to get 15,000 signatures from American youth who are under the age of 30. And so now we are in a very exciting period where it's basically the last month of this project, and we're really trying to reach American youth all across the world, or all across the United States, who are passionate about human rights and who want to sign on in support of this declaration. So if you are interested in helping us reach that goal, we actually have a signature campaign that we're running from now until September 13th. And so you can go out into your communities, your campus, your school, your classroom, or out in your community at large and go up to Americans and explain to them, the importance of human rights, but more importantly, why young people should be included in human rights advocacy. So later in today's discussion, I'm going to drop a bunch of links in the chat if you are interested in participating and signing on to this youth declaration. So without further ado, I'm going to go over some brief ground rules for dialogue, just so we're setting the tone and we're making sure that we remain respectful and open-minded as we start to talk about some of these topics today. So as you can all see here, be sure to raise your hand or use the chat to ask questions, or use the raise hand feature if you want to come off mute and share some thoughts and some of your experiences. Please wait to be recognized by the moderator before speaking. Obviously, try not to interrupt, listen carefully to others, use I statements. Please try to keep things respectful, professional, and appropriate. So without further ado, I'm very, very excited to hand the floor over to our moderator. And also in very exciting news, we have our new youth observer to the UN, Oscar Lopez. So Oscar, the floor is yours, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Ray. And it is so exciting to get to meet and speak with y'all today. As Ray mentioned, my name is Oscar Lopez, and I'm honored to serve as the 13th U.S. Youth Observer to the United Nations. And I'm particularly excited to join y'all today for this conversation to discuss a number of issues that are so close and so important for me. I'm from a community on the U.S.-Mexico border called Laredo, Texas, in South Texas. And it's a community that has experienced many of these issues directly. To start, it's a community that has long been underserved in healthcare, especially when it comes to mental health care. It's a community that's faced extreme heat and water issues. As unfortunately, just last year, we had over 11 individuals who passed away because of extreme heat, and we're facing a water crisis now as our only source of water dries up. And as a border city, we know firsthand how important it is to treat individuals who are seeking asylum and refuge in our country with the dignity and respect that they deserve, as well as ensuring that everybody has access to affordable housing. But regardless, despite all these issues that my community is experiencing, and that I know many of y'all communities are also experiencing, I am so inspired by the amazing work that young people like all of you are doing all across this country to help alleviate these issues and solve them once and for all. And so I'm honored to get the chance to moderate today's conversation, and really look forward to hearing your responses. But to start, I want to invite one of our first guest speakers today, Lady. Lady, if you could please share your thoughts. Lady, are you there?
Okay, maybe while we wait for Lady Carol to get situated, Julianne, one of our co-chairs of the Youth Affinity Group, we'd love to hear some of your thoughts.
Hi everyone, I'm Julianne. I'm one of the two Youth Affinity Group co-chairs. And on the topic of mental health, actually, it's one of the focus areas of today. I really wanted to speak upon that because the Youth Affinity Group, we really care about youth mental health. And we actually did a campaign in January to February on social media. I'm gonna copy the links in the chat later, but we made a lot of content. We made Instagram Reels, infographics, and also a compilation video. We reached across more than 50 mental health advocates all over the country to talk about their different experiences with their mental health work. And it's always just been so great working with different advocates, different youth champions, and global goals ambassadors, all different professionals from different fields. That's the amazing, magical experiences that I get with UNA USA. And I've always been very passionate being involved at my middle school and high schools in different clubs that have to do with wellness. And I also work and I'm very heavily involved with UNA Women. So there's a lot of intersectionality when it comes to just health and all different types of disparities. I wrote an award-winning essay called The Education System is Not Doing Enough for Students' Mental Health. So that's something that I'm going to keep pursuing when I study in college and learn more about these issues. And I also invented an app concept called Mindstones. I might keep developing it, but it's led up to Diamond Challenge, which is the world's top entrepreneurship competition for high schoolers. And I plan on receiving more training, obviously, about health and well-being. But it's so good to be here today, and I look forward to making more remarks on these topics that we're going to cover today. But thank you so much, Ms. McCabe, and thank you so much, Oscar, for being here today. And I look forward to speaking with you guys and engaging with the audience.
Certainly, it's so exciting to hear, and it's so inspiring uh, to hear all of the amazing work that you've done to advance the importance of mental health. And thank you so much for being here. And then I just want to check in to see if Lady is available, and if so, would love to pass it over to you.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Hello? Hello?
we can hear you.
Can everyone hear me? Hello, can everyone hear me? Oscar?
Yes, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I'm having a bad internet connection, so I need to know if you can hear me clearly.
We can hear you, and I don't know if you can hear us, but I'll put something in the chat.
Yeah, I can hear you. I first would like to also say, just like Julianne is saying, thank you for inviting me, Rachel and Oscar. I'm really happy to be here and to see you again, like 10 months after our first meeting. And so a lot has happened for me, and I'm quite grateful for all the opportunities that are coming my way for supporting mental health issues. And as you know, I think I stated this on my first visit with you guys in October, that for me, this is really important because it is close to my heart and it's lived experiences. So since the last time I saw you guys, I became a board member for NAMI. I was speaking about NAMI, and so now I'm a board member, a proud board member for NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, for those of you who do not know. And I've been busy. I hopefully you can still hear me because it's saying that the internet is unstable. But hopefully, if Oscar, if you could just nod your head, then I know that you can hear me. Can you hear me just fine?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, good. Okay. I just need you to nod your head because it's I'm not on camera. But anywho, so I've actually solicited my a few people to actually join me in a way of supporting NAMI that's coming up in October. And so that's a walk. It's called NAMI Walks. And so these walks are happening all over the country. And so I would like to invite you guys to actually check out namiwalks.org and see where there will be a walk within your city coming up. For me, it's going to be in Atlanta, October 5th, and I will put in the chat what the link is for donating to the cause. And we'd love your support. And as always, I'm a very proud member to be involved with the UN USA group as well. So if there's anything I can share or any other questions you might want to ask me, I'm here in support. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much, lady, for sharing that. And it again, like I mentioned with Julianne, is so inspiring to hear about the amazing work you're doing. So thank you for that. But I'd love to go ahead and transition into our discussion and open the floor up to everyone. For the first question that I would love to ask tonight is for y'all to introduce yourselves. You please share your UNA chapter, your age, and what major or industry you're working in, and share what human rights means to you and what brought you to this discussion today. So I'll go ahead and let someone jump in, or if not, I could also select someone to start. But does anybody want to start things off?
Well, I guess if it's okay, I can start. Oscar, first of all, it's great to meet you. Ray, always great to see you. I'm Sean Schrader. I've been fortunate to be involved with UNA USA over the last year and a half or so as an at-large member in a few different ways, helping, with some of this work with the declaration, helping to really kind of provide insights, particularly, in what's happening with human rights advocacy, which is very important, as well as some of the local action I think that youth advocates can be taking to bring about change in their local community. Fortunate to call Florida my home, just graduated from the University of South Florida with my MBA in May. So great to see all of you, and thanks for the important work you do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And then I'll go ahead and pass along to whoever would like to jump in next. Or I could also pick someone. Lana, I don't know if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself next.
I was like, oh, I don't know if anyone else is. Yeah, hi. So my name's Lana. I am part of UNA USA Houston. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm 16 years old, and for major, I guess, I don't know. Cause I do a lot of work for Girl Up, which is affiliated with the UN, and so that's kind of why I joined UNA USA, and that's kind of what brought me here. And I really thought the conversation circles were really like a great opportunity to talk to other people about these issues. And I really like how it's kind of smaller. I thought it would be kind of more of a big thing, and I didn't know we would actually get to introduce ourselves and contribute to the conversation. So this is really cool. I'm excited to be here.
That's great to hear, and would definitely love to hear more of your perspective as the conversation continues. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves next?
Hello, I can go. Hi,
Okay.
I'm Summer Khan. I can't come to the screen right now, but my work is primarily building partnerships that promote sustainability. I've been doing it since I was in college. I recently graduated from UT Dallas, and I worked extensively with the United Nations Association. I was an ambassador, Global Goals Ambassador in 2021, 22 for SDG 17 partnerships. And I was also a former Girl Up president, so it was lovely to see that connection there. So it's really nice to meet you guys and be here and learn more about I love being plugged into what's going on in UNA USA. And I think we're in a very important time with the Summit of the Future coming up, and it's really important for as many youth in our country to be engaged as possible, just on all levels, right? So thank you.
Shout out to UT Dallas. Love UT system schools, and seems like we got a lot of Texans on the call today. But I'll go ahead. Let's see, I'll call on Kylie if you'd like to go next to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah. My name's Kylie. I'm part of the UNA USA Maine chapter. And I'm a student at Columbia University where I'm majoring in economics and political science. And I'm really just excited to discuss human rights with you all today.
Great, thank you for being here. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Ayumida. If you'd like to introduce yourself. If not, if they're maybe away from their computer, we go ahead and continue. So the first question I'd love to ask out today, as y'all may know, many of these issues that we're going to be talking about today are intersectional. How have you seen the links between these topics in your advocacy work? And whoever wants to jump in, please feel free to jump in. Lana, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so for me specifically, I do a lot of gender equity work. And recently I've been researching more into kind of the intersection between gender equality and girls' mental health specifically, because I feel like in our society it's really hard for girls to kind of talk about their mental health. It's honestly more stigmatized for women as well. And an example of this too was back in the Olympics when Simone Biles dropped out. I actually did, okay, so I took AP seminar last year, and part of my research was to choose a research project, and we got the stimulus material, and part of it was talking about Simone Biles, and that kind of triggered my interest in women's mental health, because when she dropped out of the Olympics, she kind of got a lot of backlash for it. I mean, obviously now, I feel like people are more understanding because they do see, her point of view, but at the time a lot of people were confused, why would she do this, and no one really understood, and I feel like that was just really indicative of how society thinks about women's mental health. When a woman actually talks about her struggles or actually takes action to help her own mental health, I feel like everyone just kind of is shocked almost, because it's we're not used to a woman standing up for her own mental health and standing up for herself in that way. And I feel like the intersection between that is just super important. And I've been doing a lot more research with specifically women's mental health in their access to healthcare. And a recent research project that I actually did was women who suffer from postpartum depression and PTSD, and how that can kind of impact their children in the womb. And I was researching how there's a lot of lack of medical awareness for women with who suffer from postpartum or suffer from PTSD, and it's partly because of the stigma that these women face, especially with talking about their mental health. And postpartum depression is actually a huge issue for women who suffer from it, because they don't really have anyone to talk to. And so it just kind of ties into how there's just the intersection with healthcare, with women not being able to access it, and then mothers and just women not being able to talk about their mental health in general. So that's something I've been researching a lot about. And I actually am hosting an event through Girl Up Houston. I'm currently the Girl Up Houston president of the chapter, and we're hosting an event this September about helping girls our age and kind of younger girls and advocates in our community talk about their mental health. And I feel like it's really important for us to provide more safe spaces specifically for this too, and just kind of leave an open platform for girls to kind of speak about it and just offer them safe spaces. So especially for girls my age, a lot of us are balancing school and social pressures and everything. So I really want to make it a priority of mine to just provide more safe spaces, and I do that through Girl Up Houston. So
yeah, that's huge. I really appreciate you sharing that. Actually, I just started watching the Simone Biles documentary last night, and that scene where she's talking with her mom and telling her mom about her decision to drop out was just so really got to me. But I think like the fact that someone in her position was just so bold enough to say, my priority is myself and my own health, and that's what comes first, was one huge and one so admirable, and it's something that I really hope more people see as inspiration for what should be done, right? Because in the end of the day, you know, your health and your mental health comes first, and I think it was really admirable for her to do that. And again, I really appreciate just hearing about the work you're doing. It's huge, but and obviously there's so much more work to be done. But I think hearing about the work that young people like you are doing is so inspiring, and I think reminds us that it's a fight worth fighting. But does anybody else want to jump in for this question? Okay, if not, we can go ahead and move on to the next question. So how have you engaged with the UN in your advocacy? Are there specific programs or initiatives that you found particularly accessible or impactful? And I do the same here. I'll let whoever would like to jump in, jump in. And Julianne, not to call on you, but I feel like you might have some experience here. I'd love to hear your perspective. Do you feel like there's um, any programs, any UN programs you found particularly accessible or impactful?
Yeah, of course. So it's so nice meeting all of you. And Lana, I just love all the work that you're doing because I got the Girl Up Award about 2 years ago, and it was about CEDAW, like my CEDAW promotion contest. So it was a lot about gender equality and stuff. So it's so good to see another girl who actually really cares about this subject because I don't really meet a lot of people like you. So I'm so happy that you're here and keep on going because like it gets tiring sometimes, but it's all worth it. And like your voice actually really matters and it will make an impact. But aside from that, I started with UNA USA like about 4 years ago because I'm involved locally at UNA Westchester. I live in New York. So it's been really nice there. Marsha Brewster's there. And I'm involved as a young professional. So we've been doing a lot of collaboration and we're working on just more outreach, especially with the local colleges and different community organizations. So we want to do more partnerships in the community. But we've done like sustainability events, we've done a lot of like hosting events, networking events, and partnerships like throughout the community. So that's like my favorite part, just meeting people in person and seeing like the synergy. And there's so many different companies and even like libraries, for example, like the Yonkers Library, like they really advocate for sustainability, things like that. Um, Also we're working on a Model UN conference, so getting students from all over the county. We want them to really uplift the power of the UN and be like, let's take your passion for Model UN and have a county-wide conference. And we might even want to go beyond that. So that, and also we want to do more in-person meetings because the pandemic's over now. So more tree planting, more cleanups, and also professional development resources. So that's how we kind of operate on the more local levels. And I'm sure you guys are from all different states and everything. So I really want to hear about what you guys do in your local communities. But I think after I've been involved on the local level for a while, I was like, I really want to take my passions further. And this is what I want to pursue for my career path. So I'm actually starting college in like 3 days. So I'm going to Princeton University. I'm studying public and international affairs. And yeah, I hope all the academic stuff I learned will really help me back up all the advocacy that I'm doing and to pursue these passions further. And I'll see where that takes me. But on the national level, I mean, I've loved being involved with UNA USA Youth Affinity Group. That's my favorite one, honestly, because as a youth advocate, it's like we need more youth in this field because we're the future. And we need to keep empowering each other because the future leaders of tomorrow are us. And so, I mean, I do things on the state level. So recently I've been starting my position at the New York State Office of Family and Children's Services. And one of the main things that I'm going to be focusing on at my role there is the youth mental health. Like that's so important to me. So I'm really hoping that my input can really translate them into policies on the more state level. And Governor Hochul, she's the governor of New York, but she actually cares about mental health and she's investing millions of dollars into this initiative. So that, and also UNA Women. And I hope Lana and I hope Kylie and I hope all the women here hopefully get involved more with UNA Women, but they do a lot because I host some of the CEDAW town halls and we do a lot of advocacy, just inviting different speakers, inviting different advocates to come on board and talk about all the work that they do, especially CEDAW. It's like it still hasn't been ratified in the United States. And I encourage you guys to look more into it because there's a lot that goes into it, but it's a legislation that hasn't been ratified. It covers a lot of the basic human rights for women, and surprisingly, it still hasn't been ratified in our country. And I know there's a lot of political nuances that go on, and there's a lot of intersectionality. Addressing your previous question, like there's a lot, especially with women and youth. So
Certainly, I completely agree. And congratulations on starting college soon. That's so exciting. And I know you're gonna just do so amazing. Um, is there anybody else that wanted to jump in? Ray?
Thank you for letting me chime in here. Such fantastic work, Julianne, and we're always so happy to have you as one of our chairs of the Youth Affinity Group. I just wanted to kind of address this question kind of from, the national office at UNA USA. I understand that, especially as a young person who's been in your shoes before, the UN can be such a hard place to get access to when it comes to even just getting access to events, making your voice heard, through suggesting policy recommendations for resolutions, working with your member state and their mission. And so we try our best to connect you. Of course, our Youth Observer acts as a liaison between our youth members and the UN. But I actually wanted to share an opportunity on the topic of kind of accessing, the UN and helping more young people get to the UN. So as we mentioned earlier, Summit of the Future is happening next month at the UN headquarters in New York City. And UNA USA actually has 7 delegate spots that we can send our members to what's called Action Days. So on September 20th and September 21st, there are a bunch of different events happening along the margins of Summit of the Future in New York City, all about, September 20th is actually Youth Action Day. So it's all about youth engagement, which is great. And then we also have, digital, global governance, just a wide variety of topics. And so I'm going to drop the link for the application if you are interested in being a delegate at the Summit of the Future Action Days next month. Please apply because this is our way of making sure that young people, but also our members in general, are getting access to these spaces so you can continue to share all the great advocacy work that you're doing here today. So if you have any questions, feel free to DM me or email me, but I will drop the link in the chat for that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ray. And I definitely would love to see some of y'all apply. I hope that you get to join us for that. Lana, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I had a quick question about that. So I actually went to the virtual Summit of the Future hosted by UN Women because Girl Up USA nominated me for it. So they nominated a few of their members. So I was able to attend the virtual one. So I really want to attend the in-person one. I feel like that'd be really amazing. But on the form, it said like you have to be an active member for over a year. And I was in UNA USA in like for a year and a half kind of, but I didn't know that there was an official membership form. So I didn't fill that out until summer. But would it be possible for me to still be considered as an active member because I have been engaging with UNA USA and everything?
Yes, that's a great question. And I did see your email. I was getting ready to apply.
Oh, sorry.
Later
Okay, I just
today.
like wasn't. I was like,
reply.
oh no, like
No,
I
no
wasn't
worries.
sure.
'Cause I would actually love to hear about this virtual summit from that was led by UN Women, especially since Girl Up nominated you. So if you do have a link for that,
Yeah.
email me or drop it in the chat. But please still apply, and we're happy to consider you. And I will take into consideration, what you mentioned about the membership issue. So definitely still apply, and then our team will kind of review it internally.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, just going off of what Julianne talked about and Elena, it's really been, I think, interesting for me. I've had the fortunate pleasure working with UNA USA and as well as the Millennium Fellowship Organization to kind of get to see a few UN events like the Economic and Social Council Forum and things of that nature. And Ray, what you mentioned, I think, is very true. To get access in and to learn the process is very, very interesting. I accidentally one time went to the wrong floor of the UN building, and that's a story for another day. But that was a little scary. The security guards, made sure to get me back on the right track. But in all seriousness, one thing I found in the youth advocacy efforts, which I think is important, is bringing it back to that local action through capacity building and trying to talk to youth and tell them, well, going to the UN is cool, going to the World Bank, going to these different forums is great. It's a great way to network, to really share your voice. But a lot of times, I think also beyond that, you can have so much impact at the local level and can really drive a lot of positive change that's significant in that way too.
Certainly, certainly. I think that, and I apologize, my AirPods just died on me, so I'm making a little switch. But I think it's so important to remember uh the need for local action, right? I think like I mentioned, I graduated from college recently, or I don't think I mentioned this, but I graduated from college recently, and I came back home because I knew I wanted to spend a couple months home working on the issues that I cared about from a local lens and hoping to contribute to solving those issues in my community. And I think that the experience that I've had here has really reminded me that a lot of change happens locally, whether it's through the community, through the local government, through local nonprofits. A lot of the change that we hear about at a national level starts because of local efforts. And I think, um, Sean, I really agree with what you mentioned. And I think it's something that um, really, really, really is needs to just be remembered and is just so vital and so important. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask as well. Oh, Lana, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just kind of wanted to add on to your point about local advocacy because for me personally, I have been part of a lot of local Girl Up chapters, and I feel like the most change and the most action I've seen is when we mobilize people in our community, especially because when you're a little closer to, I feel like I really, with my Girl Up Houston chapter, I've really emphasized a lot of in-person meetings and kind of face-to-face events, and I feel like this really helped a lot of girls connect to more other advocates and like helped them take action too. And when you are meeting in person and talking face to face, it just engages you so much like more, and the community can just grow in this like, and it's just so more it's just a lot more inspiring to kind of see more people face to face. And so when I've hosted these important events kind of with a lot of advocates for my community, they kind of told me like, I've never really seen like events like this kind of close to me. So I feel like, as a leader who wants to host this stuff, it's a really important priority for me to just make sure that these girls and these advocates are getting the opportunity to really come in person and like take action. And, I always provide opportunities for service and opportunities for conversations. And I feel like just kind of having that in-person thing, especially after COVID too, a lot of people were telling me after COVID, like people kept doing online and there's just this disconnect, I feel like, and it's just really important that we bridge that, locally. And I just wanted to add that.
Yep, I think that's just so important. And on that same note, I'd love to ask how you all believe that young advocates collaborate, how young advocates could collaborate with each other or with established organizations to amplify their voices at the UN. And also, as you all are going and doing all this amazing work, what additional support do you need in order to create some of that amazing impact? And if anybody wants to jump in, I'd love to hear what you think. Lana, go for it.
Sorry, I'm yapping so much, but I feel like for me, something I recently joined the Girl Up USA, this Girl Up USA Southwest Coalition over 3 states, which is Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. So I'm currently coalition leader for that. And something that we're doing right now is planning a huge summit. We want to kind of have a gender equity convening event for a lot of girls to come. And so in the past, when I was part of past Girl Up coalitions, something we would do is find sponsors to kind of get more money and like make sure we can fund the event and everything. And so something I'm looking forward to doing this year with my summit is kind of reach out to other organizations and see if I can kind of pay for girls from other states to travel, because for our coalition it's across 3 states, and in the past when I held these, large summits, it was mostly like 100 people from our area, not exactly other states. So I really want to kind of collaborate with other established organizations for fundraising and like getting sponsorships to kind of really increase this like travel fund and just hopefully get more girls from Arizona and New Mexico into Texas and just bring more people together locally. I feel like that's something I really want to do to kind of make sure more voices are being included and not just because travel is kind of an issue, unfortunately. So I really want to rectify that by being able to support these girls, because a lot of girls do want to advocate, they just don't know how to access it or it's not close to them. So I feel like it's really important for me to just kind of find other companies or organizations to kind of fund that and help like pay for trips. So that's one way that I'm currently investigating it right now, but that's one way that I really want to work with others to like get these girls to our events.
That's amazing. And I mean, I think you're so right in saying that oftentimes advocacy or even getting to advocate, at the UN is really inaccessible. And I think something like that would really help to bring in voices that maybe traditionally haven't had the chance to share what their point of view is. I'm a really big believer that, if you want to craft good policy or good solution, you have to work directly with the people that are being affected by the issue you're trying to solve. And that's not going to be possible unless you make it easy for those individuals to share their voice. So I think things like that are really exciting to hear about, and I think would really help for people to have a chance to share their voice. Sean.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said. I think that accessibility piece is key, and that's where when we can do things like this virtually, it's so important and very, very exciting and helps make it accessible for everybody. I think the other thing, going back to this idea of how you can collaborate with each other, one common theme I think we have across our country today, which is unfortunate, I wish it were less common, is that kind of my way or the highway mentality in approaching different things, which is understandable when people are very passionate about a focus area or they're very concerned about a topic. But I've always been a believer in the sense that, you can work with others to get things done. You can respect or at least listen to another point of view to have some type of collaborative action. And I think even back to my experience, being a part of the human rights drafting committee that I served on with this organization, the folks I served with, all very talented, all from very different backgrounds. We sometimes brought a different perspective to the table, and as opposed to yelling or screaming or saying you're wrong or something like that, we're able to find the compromise in order to create the solution. And so I think that kind of mindset is important, not just in working with youth, but also in working with some of these different organizations. Because I think, as you all know, there are some types of organizations, whether it be, your nonprofits or your more corporate-based organizations or private sector, that are more inclined to engage in some of these advocacy efforts than others. And so I think approaching those types of organizations that are doing that work to find existing partnerships or proposing ideas to new types of organizations to find solutions and get support for travel to these events, to find ways to work together in a great positive change. I think it's a good thing when you approach it with that more positive outlook. At least in my experience, I think that it yields at least a better conversation and sometimes more results.
Certainly, I completely agree. Well, I've got one last question for all of y'all, and that's I think a really important question. But what is one thing we can all do after this call to take action on health, climate change, housing, and migration issues? And I'll share for myself. I really think that what I could do to take action on climate change is to work with my local government and see what we could do to better advocate for our community's needs and to hopefully move towards a more sustainable future for our community. But I'd love to hear what some of y'all's thoughts are. Lana.
So hi again. So for me, actually, something I really want to do too is expand a lot more the intersection between gender justice and climate change, because a lot of girls are disproportionately impacted by climate change because they bear the brunt of the burden. It's just we need to raise more awareness about that. And so in the past, something I've done actually is Girl Up USA partnered up with Oceanwise to kind of give like fun different beach cleanups. And so luckily, Girl Up Houston was able to be awarded the little funding to get to clean up a beach. And so with Girl of Houston, we cleaned up about like 900 pieces of trash from the Galveston beach. And I really want to kind of expand more on that and then also expand it into a more educational initiative. So next year, something I want to do is host another beach cleanup, hopefully get more volunteers and also like provide more transport and everything because it's like an hour away from where we live. But anyway, I want to kind of increase it into a more educational campaign and kind of talk more about like how important it is for us to raise awareness for climate change and gender justice because a lot of girls around the world are impacted by it. And even small things like us hosting a beach cleanup and like picking up like over 1,000 pieces of trash is still going to be helpful. And I just kind of want to emphasize how like every small step that we take together it locally matters globally too, because yeah, I love Oceanwise, you're so amazing. And something I really want to do is kind of emphasize to a lot of people that even though we're kind of young, I mean, I've also felt this too, especially as like a teenage girl. It's hard for young leaders to kind of feel like our voice matters. Like I know Julianne talked about this before, and especially with climate change and kind of large global issues, my friend was telling me like, "Oh, I feel like I can't really do anything. Like just because I do this, like is it possible for me to even make a difference?" And I feel like it's just so important that we emphasize that we can make a difference and small things like this all snowball into like larger things. And it's not just the actions too, it's also the sentiment behind the action because when you see other leaders doing this and other girls and advocates taking action like in your community, people close to you, people you see and talk to, it just really inspires you. And that's also kind of how Girl Up helped me, honestly, because when I joined Girl Up I met so many like amazing teenagers who were like my age and like girls who went to my school or girls that I talked to and knew and like they were similar to me, and just seeing them take action that way and just really inspires you too as well. And it really has strengthened me as a person, I feel like, because I see all these youth advocates leading and like doing this. And so in the future I really want to kind of emphasize for my Girl of Houston members and for girls in my coalition as well that we are young, we are teenage girls, but that's not a weakness and it's a strength that we can use and really use our voices to work together and make a change, and every small change matters. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say I'm like all of the best efforts to change the world are being driven by young people. And it is so important as young people to remind yourselves that no matter your age, where you're from, what your background is, you're capable of really bringing about important and amazing change. And I think that some of the work y'all have shared here is just so indicative of that. But thank you so much for sharing that. Sean.
Yeah, I feel like I just need a little button that says I agree with everything that Lana says, and then that takes care of my response. But no, that's very, very exciting stuff and just very impactful at the local level. My experience is very similar. I think that, like we've been talking about, you probably can tell. I think I've probably sound like a broken record on the interest in community engagement. What you can do at the local level, but I think it can kind of be a double-edged sword because in talking with students and youth, you talk about what can be done, but there's that perception that there, is no change that can be made. It's all got to happen, the national or state level. And so one project that I really enjoyed participating in when I was at the University of South Florida, I was fortunate to be the campus governor, which is like being the student body president, and was really fortunate to help lead efforts to install a water goat device in their marina. And to begin with, when they presented this idea and we're talking about it, I thought, well, that's a weird name. I'm not sure what that is. Sounds like some kind of special animal, but it turns out it's a really cool device that is in the water and is able to help siphon off trash that comes through so as to make sure, your single-use plastic and other types of debris that are in the water are caught and then don't, impact water quality or don't harm marine life in the process. And it was really cool though, because for somebody, doing an MBA background and a lot of other people in government and folks who really are, some were in the environmental space, but a lot that were not in the environmental space. It was cool to say, well, here are all these partners coming together to really do something to help embody like Sustainable Development Goal 17 of partnerships to really get something done. And it was exciting. Just recently, the project was recognized by the United Nations Institute for Training and Research is a project that helped embody SDG 17, which was fun. And I try and share stories like that as ones like what we've heard so much of today already, that can help make a difference and help bring a lot of people together. And the biggest thing of all, people realize they have a say and they have a ability to really make something happen.
Certainly. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. Well, y'all, we're at the end of our call, but before you leave, I wanted to share a couple of things you could do once you leave the call to help advance some really great work on some of these issues. And so first, obviously, please, if you haven't done it yet, sign the Youth Declaration. We really want to show world leaders and leaders at the UN just how important some of the things enshrined in that document are for young people. As well, please join the UNA USA Climate Affinity Group to get together with others who are looking to work on environmental issues and climate issues. Ask your local UNA USA chapter to fundraise for the UNHCR refugee campaign, as well as join the UN Foundation's campaigns, the United to Beat Malaria and Shot at Life campaigns. And last but not least, apply to join UNA USA at Summit of the Future Action Days. We really want to see you there, and I hope you'll join us. But thank you all so much for joining us on this call. It was just amazing to get to hear some of your thoughts and to hear about the work y'all are doing. And I'm so inspired by just what y'all are doing and the change you'll create in this world. But thank you so much again for joining this call. Oh, Lana, go ahead.
Sorry, I have one more thing. So, the 2 years ago, oh gosh, wait, 1 year ago, it feels longer, but so I was part of the Girl Up Southeast Texas Coalition, and we hosted a summit, and we actually got to meet Himaja. She was the 11th Youth Observer. Yeah, she actually spoke at our summit. So I was wondering if you would be interested in kind of coming to speak at any of our Girl Up events, or with climate change. I feel like you could offer some amazing input because you are the Youth Observer. If like that's something you'd be interested in, just like feel free to reach out to us on Instagram and everything.
Certainly, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think probably has your email, so I'd love to get in touch and see what's possible. But that'd be great.
And you're in Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
I saw your Instagram. Wait, so I'm not a stalker, please. I follow you. I'm not a stalker. Yeah, so actually we are in Texas, so like we could help pay for travel and stuff. It won't be too much.
Yep, we would definitely love to get in touch.
Yeah, so that'd be so amazing.
I love this. That's what these calls are all about, making these connections. So thank you all again for being here. And thank you, Oscar, for guiding us through this wonderful discussion. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. This is so fun. I love talking to people like this.